This is the AB4WS radio show. Every week, bringing you the exciting amateur radio news and information happening in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana areas.
The AB4WS radio show can be found on the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast application. And now also available on the AB4WS radio show YouTube channel. The ARRL has launched a simple web-based tool that lets you send a message to your representatives in support of a bipartisan bill that would eliminate HOA private land use restrictions, preventing amateur radio operators from installing antennas at their residence. I encourage you to take just 30 seconds today to fill out the form and submit it. The tool automatically sends a pre-formatted message to each of your representatives in Congress and Senate. You can do this simply by going to the website send-a-letter.org/HOA. Steve, NATFD, is looking for some amateur radio operator volunteers to help out with communications for the Queen Bee Half Marathon on October 11th. You can help out. Email Steve at natfd@fuse.net. An amateur radio mode that some thought had been abandoned is making a comeback, especially in the greater Cincinnati area. That is the return to keyboard packet radio activity. And Ted, AB4WS, is trying to gather packet radio enthusiasts and those interested in packet radio together to have some meaningful discussion on how to move the area's packet radio forward and perhaps connect Cincinnati back to the rest of the state and others. This week he held the first Zoom call where 13 stations checked in and discussed the packet radio environment in the area and suggested possible ways to improve upon what is already established. Ted is planning to continue the Zoom call meeting with the next one scheduled for a Thursday in October. For more information and how you can join in on the discussion, check out the invitation on the WG8Z Packet PBS or contact Ted, AB4WS, over WinLink. Congratulations to Mike, WB8VNH, the very nice ham, for having been a licensed amateur radio operator for 50 years. Mike was first licensed September 22nd, 1975. Congratulations, Mike. Congratulations to John, KE9DVW, who went to Tech to General, and Chris, KR4GWA, who went from no license to Tech and General in one sitting at the testing session at the American Legion Post 42. Congratulations. Listen out for Masonic Lodges on the Air event on September 27th. This year, the 5th year of the event, is sponsored by the Fulton County Amateur Radio Club. For more information, go to cqmorelight.com/rule. Ham radio operators will be gathering for an amateur radio breakfast on September 27th at 9 a.m. at the First Baptist Church Gym, 201 North Main Street in Barberville, Kentucky. A meet and greet for ham radio operators in the area. Parks on the Air meetup is planned for September 27th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time at the Paintsville Lake State Park, US 1270, following the Paintsville Hamfest. Get ready for the Simulated Emergency Test, also known as SET, on October 4th and 5th, where Aries and emergency communications groups demonstrate their abilities to provide communication to the served agencies. Time now for your group to start planning their participation in the said event. For more information, go to ARRL.org/simulated-emergency-test. The Ohio set is scheduled for October 4th and will be based on a major solar flare hitting the Earth, which knocks out the Ohio Marks Public Safety Communication System as well as the cellular system. The Ohio SEC is asking for counties to send a sitrep message via voice, digital, or WinLink, and suggesting each county make up their own plan for this event. This could include local repeaters, simplex, HF, voice, or digital. Is your county ready? October 5th is the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club monthly Simplex Net on 146.580 at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which is always held the first Sunday of the month. They invite any licensed amateur radio operator to join them by checking in. Perhaps you cannot hear the net control station at your location. Well, no problem. Just listen and eventually you'll hear a station who will take your check-in and relay it into net control. And that starts out by stations who can hear net control. Then each of those stations put out calls and take check-in from stations that can hear them. And then the next set of check-ins will be asked to put out calls and take check-ins for their stations that can hear them. After the net, you can share your responses by posting who you were able to hear in your net report on the nkarc.groups.io. This is an effective way to test your equipment and to learn how you can use your equipment if something happened and the repeaters were off the air. It's also a great training opportunity. A pro tip is to open up your squelch on your radio. You'll be amazed how many other stations you'll be able to hear in the noise that were squelched out. So on the first Sunday night night of the month at 6 p.m. Tune to 146.580 and join in on the fun on that NKARC Simplex Net. The Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club will be conducting live online classes to get your technician class license. Class will be held over Zoom and run for 6 weeks from Sunday, October 5th through November 9th. Sessions are from 1:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. All ages are welcome. For more information and or to register, visit tiny.cc/BAHAM. On October 11th, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will be holding a Parks on the Air event at US 3779, the Big Bone Lick State Historic Site, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if you're interested in POTA or you want to see what this radio thing is all about, come on out. Even if you don't have an amateur radio license, you may be able to put you on the air with a control operator. It's lots of fun to play radio in the park. On October 11th, the Brunch Bunch will be meeting at 1 p.m. at the Price Hill Chili, 4920 Glenway Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio. Come join some great hams for a great brunch. Are you interested in this new world of mesh-tastic? Well, on Monday, October 20th at 7 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will be meeting at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. The club will have a presentation on a beginner's guide to mesh-tastic by David, KY4DM, open to anyone interested in mesh-tastic. So if you're interested in mesh-tastic, come on out and learn all about this new form of communications.
Repeater news.
The K4 KTR DMR repeater on 443,000 in Louisville, Kentucky is back on the air and operating thanks to Kyle, K4 KTR. Are you looking for the most up-to-date list of repeaters in the greater Cincinnati area? Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet where I've listed repeaters that are active in the area, separated by tabs for each band or mode, so you can easily look for just DMR repeaters or 2-meter analog repeaters and so on. The list includes 2 meters, 220, 440, 6 meters, D-Star, DMR, C4FM, P25, and some other classifications. Every time I update the file, I include the date and the file name so that you know you have the latest update. To download the file, go to the AB4WS Radio Show Facebook page and go to the file section and download the file. If you're not on Facebook, email me at ab4ws.radio@gmail.com and I can email you the latest file. If you see any errors, problems, additions, or corrections, email that information to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Hamfest.
On September 27th is the Paintsville, Kentucky Hamfest at the Paintsville Recreation Center, 232 Preston Street in Paintsville, Kentucky. For more information, go to ky4arc.com. On September 28th is the 51st Annual Cleveland Hamfest and Computer Show at the Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds, 162 Eastland Road in Berea, Ohio. For more information, go to hac.org. October 4th is the DX Workshop Operating Specialty Convention from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time in the Warren County Public Library, Bob Kirby Branch, 175 Iron Skillet Court in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Talk in on the 444.300 repeater with a PL tone of 179.9. For more information, visit wkdxa.org/events. October 4th is the Northwest Ohio Amateur Radio Club Hamfest at the New Hope Christian Center, 2240 Batty Road in Lima, Ohio. Talking on the 146.670 repeater with a 118.8 PL tone. October 11th is the Williams County Amateur Radio Association Hamfest at the Williams County Fairgrounds, 619 East Main Street in Montpelier, Ohio. Talking on the 146.82 repeater with a PL tone of 107.2. On October the 11th, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. is the Po' Boy Amateur Radio Tailgate Hamfest at the Laurel County Library, 120 College Park Drive in London, Kentucky. Talk in on the 146.610 repeater with a PL tone of 103.5. October 12th is the Ashland Trunk Fest at the Ashland County Fairgrounds, 1740 South Bainey Road in Ashland, Ohio. Talk in on the 147.105 repeater with a PL tone of 71.9. October 25th is the Hazard, Kentucky Hamfest at 1700 North Main Street in Hazard, Kentucky. For more information, contact Johnny, KY4JLB at JLB741@yahoo.com. On November 8th, the Grant Amateur Radio Club will once again hold the famous Georgetown Hamfest at the ABCAP building, 406 West Plum Street in Georgetown, Ohio. Lots of door prizes will be given away. An amateur radio exam session will be held by the Highland Amateur Radio Association. Talking on the 146.73 repeater with a PL tone of 162.2. For more information, contact Ken, KD8FKU at KD8FKU@gmail.com.
Are you looking to upgrade your license? Do you have someone else that's interested in the hobby? Here are some upcoming exam opportunities.
The Milford Amateur Radio Club holds amateur radio testing on the third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. at the Miami Township Civic Center, 6101 Meyer Drive in Milford, Ohio. Please pre-register at milfordhamradio.org. The Dayton Amateur Radio Association has exams frequently. For their exam schedule, email exams.w8bi@gmail.com. On September 28th at 11:30 a.m., there'll be an amateur radio testing session at the Cleveland, Ohio Hamfest, Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds, 160 Eastland Road in Bree, Ohio. Walk-ins are okay, and for more information, email hamfestve@k8md.com. On October 2nd, the Lafayette Valley Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Dearborn County Emergency Management Office, 401 West High Street in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Register at hamstudy.org/sessions. For more information, email Dan at ke9aks@lvarc.net. On October the 9th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing k8weh@k8weh@awrl.net or on the k8ge.net website. On October 11th at 10 a.m., the Scott County Amateur Radio Club will host an amateur radio testing session at the Georgetown Police Department, Georgetown, Kentucky. On October 20th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by going to hamstudy.org/sessions/nky-ve. On October 25th at 10 a.m., the Wilderness Road Amateur Radio Club will host an amateur radio exam session at the American Legion, Post 46 in Danville, Kentucky. On October 28th at 6 p.m., the K4TG VE team will host an amateur radio exam session at the Anderson County Extension Building. Use the rear entrance in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. On November the 8th at 10 a.m., the Bluegrass Amateur Radio Society will host an amateur radio exam session at the Red Cross Building in Lexington, Kentucky. On November 17th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by going to hamstudy.org/sessions/nky-ve. On December 11th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing k8weh@k8weh@awrl.net or on the k8ge.net website. On December 13th, the Scott County Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio testing session at the Georgetown Police Department in Georgetown, Kentucky. Special thanks to this week's content contributors: WB8VNH, KY4GW, WB8YYS, KD8ZLD, K9HIO, N8LAR, K4NKU.
If you have something you think other amateur radio operators in the area would be interested in, send the information or your recorded audio file attached in an email to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Covering your amateur radio news and information in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana tri-state area, this is Jack Prindle, AB4WS in Big Bone, Kentucky.